Let's go on to step 4 of those high-level 4 steps, and we're going to get an incident plan in place. Now, remember, the title of the webinar is You Will Be Breached, and I hope we've agreed that you can manage the risk, but you can't fully eliminate all of it. Well, since you can't eliminate it, you have to be able to still conduct business. So each risk has a chance that it'll happen. And with today's and tomorrow's cybersecurity threat actors, we don't want to try to figure out what to do as it happens. So we want at least a basic incident response plan in place that you can share and train and practice with everyone in your organization. It doesn't have to be complex. In fact, it shouldn't be. You don't want to try to make a plan that's ultra detailed step by step that will go out the window the first time you actually have an event. This is an organization level document summarizing the business decisions, the key people, the key considerations, the key authorizations, the key steps in the event of a cybersecurity incident. As you develop out your plan, you may eventually develop separate tactical incident response plans or playbooks for specific types of incidents. That's great, but let's keep this high level and presume this will be the first one for your organization. Now, importantly, this plan is only useful if people know it exists and they can get to it, like a physical printed copy in the event of a cybersecurity event. If your email gets knocked out, how do you get to the incident plan that's in your email about how to respond to the incident of your email being knocked out? And people have to understand in your organization the basics of the plan ahead of time so they don't have to try to figure it out in the moment. They don't have to be experts on it, but they have to be familiar with it. Producing the plan is not having the plan. Training your people to use the plan as a tool is part of a business process. Now you're building layers of cybersecurity. Quick sample table of contents. Key things I've seen in incident plans that have been helpful. And I'd start with a quick statement on your responsibilities, and that's addressed to every employee that is looking at this paper for the first time. 1 to 3 sentences, here's what you have to do. You are our early warning detector. You are looking for indicators. If this happens, you have a responsibility to put this plan into action, whether you are the first person or not. If you haven't heard anybody else launching the incident plan, you are responsible to launch the incident plan. Now, some of these are straightforward, but let me dive into more detailed examples for a couple sections. We're going to do severity assessment and response process. Those are kind of technical, and I'll help out from an IT perspective. So let's start with severity assessment. Your plan gives guidance on what DEFCON, what defense condition level your organization's at, and you don't have to use the term DEFCON in your incident response plan. Now that you know your IT assets and you know their sensitivities, you know what's important to your business, you want to call out that your organization's leadership has predetermined that these things would be high severity incidents, and they necessitate a high severity response if any of those things are true, like we can't conduct business, or one of our critical assets is at risk or is even likely at risk. The important thing is that your leadership has decided ahead of time what's high severity to you. You can do the same thing to summarize what's a medium event or a low severity event, what those mean to your organization. The severity determines the depth of your response plan. So the response plan is not how to fix the problem. For that, you're relying upon your people and their training and their skills and their expertise and the tools that you've already put in place to be prepared for this type of security event. The response plan summarizes your organization's leadership's predetermined decisions and the guidance to minimize and recover from the damage. It takes into account that the plan requires communication throughout and someone in charge throughout, like a chain of command. And that chain might start with the first person to notice something unusual until they can get another more prepared person on point. And some response plans also have specific guidance for when it's okay to even shut down or interrupt or otherwise take extraordinary measures to protect assets, even if it means further temporarily disrupting the business. The worst time to try to make these decisions is in the moment of an attack. And thinking through your assets and your risk management, your cybersecurity posture and your tools and your people and your processes, thinking through all that ahead of time gives your organization a head start in a break glass situation. Don't forget to include communication guidelines in your response plan. When do employees need to be notified? Who's responsible for doing so? How often? Via what methods? Who's authorized to talk to customers, vendors, or even the media? How early in the process? And who's responsible for contacting your cybersecurity insurer to start their incident response and preservation process? So let's dovetail this a bit into communication. I realize I didn't boldface that on the outline, but I think there's an important bit here. Your plan might have specific wording or guidance like this, or this might be part of your regular training that you present along with the plan. Just talking about security and incident response tends to get people a little excitable. We're all now suddenly super hackers fighting back against the big bad threat actors, or we're scared to death that this might actually happen. Either one of those, I'm gonna get a little anxious, and your colleagues will have the same uncertain response. It's important to put some guidelines and organization culture around how we talk about cybersecurity. Specifically, there are some loaded words that I mentioned at the start of the presentation, like incident and breach. You now know that those mean very specific things, and that they're a business determination of impact and meaningfulness, or it's a regulatory mandate. As part of sharing a cybersecurity response plan with your employees and training everyone on it, you want to have a shared understanding that only certain people in your organization can declare what is an incident or a breach. That's not a casual determination that just anyone makes. They're welcome to use, hey, I've seen something unusual here and I'm investigating. You don't want everyone to say, whoa, breach, breach, breach. That's not a real response. That's not a measured response. Hope everybody's ready for another screenshot, because here's a wall of text. So here's an example policy or guidance that you could use within your own organization. You're welcoming people to be part of your organization's growing culture of cybersecurity and security awareness, but you're reserving some critical response plan elements, like declaring if an indicator or an event is actually an incident or a breach to people able to make that determination, like the CEO. Okay, everybody got the screenshot or noted? You'll get a copy of this on slide 61 when you get the deck? Okay, cool, moving on. So reiterating, the goal of an incident response plan is to start your defensive response as soon as it's practical to do so. Response plans might have costs associated with them. Investigations take time, expertise, and tools. They take focus. They will shift your attention, and that's okay. When it's a business choice based on the risks involved, based on the inventory you've assembled and that you're maintaining within your organization. The plan is only effective if people know about it and understand their role in it, which starts with how to recognize security indicators and what to do if you do. And throughout your incident response plan, you want to communicate, communicate, communicate. If it's a significant event, people will come to all sorts of incorrect conclusions faster than you can get the correct information to them. Be factual, be clear if you're investigating or if there's confidence, follow the guidance of your cybersecurity insurer response team and their legal counsel. Your employees initially may be uncertain. They may even be worried about their own privacy and their information security. If the event is significant, your customers or your vendors may be impacted. Get ahead of it. They're gonna find out about it if it's significant. Think about the scenarios, talk to your resources and your counsel, and have a plan just in case. Importantly, I think you can see that the incident response plan is an organization level plan. It's not an IT plan. IT has a role to play, but ultimately the response plan aligns to the organization leadership and the leadership decisions. Similarly, please do have tested playbooks and step-by-step checklists within individuals' areas of responsibility. A team responsible for restoring backups should have a trained, tested, known good procedure for restoring those backups. A team responsible for shutting down internet access to a key application should have a trained, tested, known good procedure for doing so. A team responsible for communicating within the organization should have a trained, tested, known good procedure for, we're going to communicate this way. All of those don't belong in your incident response plan, but they do belong in the playbooks or the checklists that individual people who participate in the incident response will need to know to do their part. Now, keep in mind, the threat actor will not follow your plan. Your plan is about protecting your organization and recovering to minimize the damage.